Many organizations are building their investments in Office 365, picking up from the push that Microsoft is making towards the cloud. However, we are seeing many people that are not aware of the full capabilities of what Office 365 can offer. We focus often just on moving email. To help people understand how they can get the most from their license, we've put together this video to show what is on offer. Office 365 is a very broad suite of products, and the definition can often confuse people. The key connector is that they are cloud-based services and are intended to help organizations to be more productive. There are applications across multiple devices, all connected with a cloud backend and with consistent features. There is also an increasing push for intelligence to power interactions, such as knowing which documents you want to use when, and recommendations for better slide designs in PowerPoint. Office 365 has a large and ever-changing set of services, with staples such as Word, Outlook and SharePoint, alongside more recent services such as Teams, Stream and To Do. There are also a lot of overlapping services, which can confuse people, such as when to use Skype for Business versus Yammer versus Teams. To help with this, Matt Wade, an enthusiastic member of the Office 365 community, has created a periodic table to help categorize the different services in groups and give a brief overview of the whole picture. And you can view that at the link on this slide below. He groups together the services in areas such as file storage and collaboration, chat and conferencing, and social networking in a similar format to the periodic tables of elements. I highly recommend taking a look. Matt's site is also a great place for end-user help on the different services, especially SharePoint. Taking this idea of the grouping, we can look at the key elements. One of the huge benefits of Office 365 is that you can continue to use many services that you used on-premise in the same way, such as Outlook for email and the traditional Office applications such as Word, Excel and PowerPoint. You can set up virtual folders that act like shared drives for accessing files when they're being held in SharePoint, and have your personal drive in OneDrive but appearing in the same way as you would with your shared drive personal drives. This helps to reduce the impact of change to staff to limited where they're not comfortable with large amounts of change. At the same time, you can help staff who are more comfortable by allowing them to use the mobile apps, picking up more use of the social tools such as Yammer and Teams, and video, whether it be live or streamed, with far more modern tools and access from everywhere. For now, let's focus on what is in the classic side first. For those using Outlook already, there is not a large change. The ribbon bar is familiar for all who have used Outlook since 2007, and the panes can be configured as before. One change is the ability to get access to Office 365 groups, which will be covered a little later. The benefits of having data in the cloud start to appear when you move to mobile access. With the investments that Microsoft have made into security, it now allows greater access for staff on their own devices without having to implement complex software like Good. Staff can use their preferred email client, whether it's the native version on Android and iOS, or a more feature-rich tool, such as the Outlook client for iOS and Android as well. Security is maintained with Active Directory, and that can also add additional rules such as no printing or saving mails outside of the client. It also has great integration with other mobile apps from Microsoft, such as OneDrive. The other area that's been expanded is around the intelligence provided through artificial intelligence and machine learning. Microsoft has used its understanding of large datasets to help learn more effectively what is relevant content, and also to allow you to interact in different ways. One example is where it can learn what email you're more likely to want to see, providing a focused inbox of content, as you can see here. Unfortunately, we have had to black out some of our clients' names and client messages here. This is not saying the other is junk mail that you wouldn't see here in the other, but you may not want to be disturbed by it immediately. For example, you may want to get emails from your clients directly, whereas your newsletters and other information which you want to read, you may come back to later in the day. You can see here an example from the tips from Metalogics, which I always enjoy reading, but they're not something that I want to interrupt some of the work I do. One more recent extension that Microsoft have provided through their Garage group, set of projects that are not core but can pivot quickly and adapt to new ideas, has brought in live dictation across the Office suite, making it easier to add text and even translate it. I've tried this a few times with creating slides, and it's worked very well. I have tried it with a few of our Hungarian teammates, and some of the translation can be interpreted slightly differently, but it is working very well and makes it a lot easier to consume the content. Many of these additional add-ins available via the Office store. There is also a variety of paid and free add-ins and connectors. Connectors allow content from other sources to be streamed to your inbox as if they were email. You can see here some other examples that come with Outlook itself now, where it's picked up from the contents of the email itself that there is an action that needs to take place. So for example here it's asked to confirm when the date is. It can also suggest a meeting, so if I'd selected this one, it would have seen the date of the 12th and realised that it's this month and suggested automatically to add a meeting for that date. You can also, in this case in the blacked out area, I have a map, and you can link that up with Bing Maps and give a direct link onto the map so you can quickly and easily get to where you need to go. One thing with the additional pieces around the store you can add is if you don't find a connector there or an add-in there that meets what you need, it is possible to develop some third-party solutions. And here at Ballard Chalmers we'd be very happy to help anyone who would like to extend and connect to other services where they may not find an existing add-in. Let's move on to files now. While there was a push against using files for a while, with people being encouraged to work on pages and other web-based formats, Microsoft has more recently accepted that people are more comfortable in Word, Excel and PowerPoint and built up easier ways of working with them. We'll cover the OneDrive portal in a minute, but you can now create and access all Office docs from OneDrive, SharePoint and even directly from web versions of the applications. This can also be from the more familiar Desktop Files Explorer, where you can view your content and also sync to take it offline and can retain it on your laptop or other tablet device. And that means that when you lose internet connection, you can still work on those documents, and then when you regain internet connection, that will automatically sync without you having to do anything to it. Currently, each library that you sync up requires all the files and folders in that library to be synced to your local laptop. But coming with the Creator update this autumn in Windows 10, you'll be able to selectively choose which files within the library that you want to synchronize and take offline. Next we come on to sharing emails, and while traditionally you may share files by adding them as an attachment in Outlook, you can now share links to them which will take people directly to SharePoint or OneDrive, and this is built into into Outlook 2016. And this really encourages people to get more consistent versions of files rather than sending one version and someone works on that and then someone else sends an alternative version. You can make sure that everyone is looking at the latest copy and making any changes and retaining those for everyone else to see, reducing inconsistencies you see with documents sent through emails. As with email and Outlook, there is also a mobile access via the OneDrive app on most platforms, certainly iOS and Android. And that offers much the same functionality as the OneDrive web-based app, where you can take your documents offline and you can search for other documents as well as seeing what the recent documents that you've been working on. And this will be across your OneDrive and your SharePoint, whatever it was you were working on there. One common comment that we're hearing is that it can be a bit confusing about what OneDrive is, because while it is the personal area for all your files, it is also the single portal for accessing files across all areas of Office 365, such as SharePoint and even your attachments for your emails as well. It's taken the place of your own shared drive, but with the added benefit of having versioning on documents and being able to share them with others. Recommendations on where it's best to save your documents is covered a little later. With a new sharing interface, it is much easier to change access to documents to make sure that others can view them. This is also now consistent across most of the Office 365 services. However, this does have to be managed to make sure that admins are comfortable with the rights that are being set out, as it had become much easier to share both internally and externally. Microsoft are working on encouraging more open access, so careful consideration does have to be made as to what you want within your organization. Looking at the portal, you can now see that there is content from across multiple applications. You can see the sites, the SharePoint sites that you have access to down here, and you can start to see documents you've accessed across sites and multiple areas, whether it be within the OneDrive or SharePoint on there, and any site you have access to. It still maintains your permissions, so you won't see any documents that you shouldn't have access to though, and the same for other people. You'll also be able to select any one of these specific sites and be able to see all the documents in that site from one place. Finally, there's now the Discover tab, which shows content that Microsoft's Office Graph algorithms believe is relevant to you. The exact details of how this is worked out is not known, but it uses all the data that Microsoft has on who you are, what meetings you attend, people that you interact with online via their services, and the relationships defined in Active Directory to try and surface the most relevant content that you have access to. For example, if you're scheduled to attend a meeting and the presentation is shown as part of that by the organizer, you're likely to see that presentation at the top of your feed after the meeting if the author has granted you access to it. This removes the frustration of people forgetting to share content with you. This is part of the wider view of intelligent access to documents with Delve. Delve is one of the services that shows the capability of the Microsoft Graph. Much of the functionality is now appearing in other services, so there are some rumors that the nature of Delve itself may change or disappear. However, it shows how you can access content in one place and also see content related to specific users with security still intact. It also has the useful function of creating boards, which allow you to group a set of documents for a single purpose. For example, you could pin all your sales presentations from across multiple sites into one place. The great thing about Delve being powered by the Microsoft Graph is you can make your own portals as you see fit using the data. You could add trending content to your intranet or across your team sites, regardless of the location. You could have shared contacts appear in an Outlook add-in, showing the most accessed first to give best access to recent details. This means you're not caught up in what is offered now, but can extend it how you want it to be. Moving on to Office itself, one of the key benefits is there's now access and use everywhere. You can see from here a consistent experience of accessing the Windows-based application, the web-based application, and even the mobile applications, and they offer much of the same functionality consistently across different platforms. You also get the consistency of recent files built into each app, so when you click open in PowerPoint, you can see the recent PowerPoints you've accessed across your local drives, across SharePoint and across OneDrive. And that really allows you to start continuing working on documents that you've left and just pick up on different devices as and when you need to. Finally, we're seeing more of the artificial intelligence and machine learning that Microsoft's offering, with translation in a bar on the side of PowerPoint and Word and the other Office applications that allow you to put it into different languages very easily. And also they're picking up some ideas from your presentations to give it different formats. You can see here that for a single image and a bit of text, it's recommending about 6 different ways that they could be displayed. And it means you don't have to keep rearranging your content, and it will do some of the thoughts for you to make sure it is as visually engaging as possible. Connected with Office is SharePoint. This has been around since 2001, and much of the classic site retained the same feel from earlier versions. This has led to some negativity from people who've used it in the past, with power users being very comfortable with it, but the majority of staff in organisations becoming frustrated that they cannot work out how to do simple things like adding an image to a page. Over the last 18 months, Microsoft has made a large shift and introduced a modern feel to sit alongside the more classic pages. The modern sites are a lot bolder and, as you'd expect, more modern looking, driven by imagery and designed from the start to work well on tablets and mobile devices. Editing pages is much simpler and easier to understand, embracing much of the current feel from other recent websites to help users feel a common experience. Microsoft has moved comparatively quickly with this and released preview functionality that can be used as a live site. While perhaps surprisingly for some, this has not had many bugs. It has sometimes limited functionality that was previously available in the classic sites. And Pages is still the right tool to use in some cases. For example, customization on list pages is not yet supported on the modern sites, although there is now a developer preview available for that, and it's believed that at the Microsoft Ignite conference that will become a live and be available to use in all live sites. What does SharePoint do? This is a hugely broad answer, as SharePoint can do a lot of things. There is rarely a case of things that it can't do in some form for simpler scenarios, which can then be extended for more complex situations. Experience with SharePoint helps to understand where it is a workable full solution, or maybe just an interim pilot tool to help work out what is wanted. It is very easy to use SharePoint for everything, and then find that you're hammering a square peg into a round hole. It's best to work out what you want first, rather than assuming it will be SharePoint and then working out how to use it. SharePoint is very flexible in terms of its structure, but experience has shown that it's good to think of sites as broadly fitting on these two criteria. Top-down sites will usually be driven by management or teams that are aiming to inform a group of people around what is happening. For example, sales may have a site to communicate out their latest figures and successes. Bottom-up sites are more geared up towards collaborating on a specific topic or project, and all members would generally have open access to it. For example, a project repository where everyone can review the status and act as a knowledge hub. For bottom-up type sites, Microsoft has encouraged breaking out from just SharePoint. They found that organizations were wanting more with a security group, calendar, and the other items listed for a common set of people. To help with this, they've created Office 365 groups. That means that you have one point of creation or update for a set of people to work easily. This can lead to confusion where people expect a group to be a tangible thing, but is really something that underpins a set of services for a common purpose. For example, you may have a working group set up for implementing Office 365 with a calendar of key events, email group for being notified of the latest updates, Teams chat group to discuss when the team is not together, a OneNote notebook for all meeting notes, and a common library for the key documents and any draft items. Moving on from the groups into chat, there are several services available for chat. This summary slide outlines when and where it is generally recommended to use each one, but it is important to realize this does not need to be prescriptive. Some organizations find that Yammer works for all these situations, and others are seeing Teams as being their go-to place. In other cases, specific teams tend to connect better with one of these, while another will find they work better with the other. The Office 365 community generally recommends that teams offer guidance on each of these services, make this guidance and training available to all staff and very accessible, but then allow staff to find out what works best for them. Skype for Business helps drive meetings with voice, video and text chat, as well as desktop sharing and shared electronic whiteboards. There are apps for most platforms that mean you can connect with others you know easily wherever you are. It helps encourage real engagement through use of video, although you should ensure you have considered your bandwidth usage with this. And meetings can be recorded for later viewing. The text chat means you can easily ping someone to ask an immediate question when they're showing as available. It is the virtual equivalent of being in the office, where you would tap someone on the shoulder if they don't appear to be too busy, and hold a meeting in a room with a group. Where email is a modern replacement for letters, this is a way of bringing remote locations together as one. Where Skype for Business is about your office and people you know, Yammer stretches across the whole organisation and allows a place for communities to naturally form where they may not know each other before. For example, you may have a group of people who are passionate about a particular car brand but have never worked together. This helps foster new ideas across disparate teams that would have to be very managed through hierarchical layers previously. Teams is a relatively new service in the Office 365 stack and was initially seen as a group-based chat experience. However, Microsoft has now pitched it further as an alternative portal for people to be productive. Where the intranet and Outlook can both act as portals that people might use to get things done, Teams focuses the user around specific groups or Teams, and the work related to that. As well as the chat windows, you can add tabs to documents, tasks, dashboards, and many other things. These tabs can also be custom developed to include specific content from other applications. The chat aspect encourages people in the team to have open conversations on topics so that others can easily join, as opposed to Skype for Business, which is directed to be a bit more isolated. The other interesting aspect is the work Microsoft has brought around bots in Teams, where you can chat with bots to get things done. For example, Zoom.ai's bot can help you schedule a meeting with everyone, or the Hipmunk bot, which helps arrange travel via chat. The default bot, Tbot, helps answer any questions on how to use Teams, and you can also create your own bot and publish it within Teams, which do things like check latest sales figures or confirm appointments for the day for that group. This is a growing area, and we expect a lot more to be appearing soon. Lastly, SharePoint communication sites are how you share news, information and knowledge from a central point for a specific purpose. Where team sites are designed to help staff be more productive, communication sites help to ensure they're more informed and engaged. These are not just traditional push news sites, but designed to allow staff to comment and ask questions to increase engagement as well. These also allow more formatted pages with multiple columns when compared with the simpler Teams pages. With all these different places to save files and other content, it can be confusing for people to know what to save when. The generally accepted guidelines are to use OneDrive for your own items or when it is in draft. Then move it to the right place in SharePoint once complete, where you'll have it related to that team or community that the content is there for. And this helps you retain shared knowledge that other people can access. Groups are not really a place in itself, but will have a SharePoint document store for that purpose. It is even more misunderstood when it comes to which social or chat tool should be used. Generally, Yammer is for wider organisational discussions with communities of interest, rather than Teams, which is for a community of purpose or team to bring together and be more collaborative. Skype is then used more for impromptu one-to-one meetings or small group chat and planned meetings. Again, as I said earlier, these things aren't prescriptive, and teams will find that perhaps Yammer works for their team better, or even Teams works for more open-ended groups. The key is to try and understand what is in each, and then make the most of that and make it available to other people. While Skype for Business works well for live video, it's not intended to be a solution for streamed video. There was previously an Office 365 video service, but this has now, for the most part, been usurped by Microsoft Stream. Previously, this was a fairly basic service that allowed you to upload and share videos internally and within specific channels or groups. However, with the live announcement of the service, they have included some interesting intelligence-based features to take it ahead of some other offerings like YouTube and Vimeo that you may be tempted to use insecurely, where they're intended more for external access rather than internal. The quality of these changes is improving greatly, and I would feel comfortable using these now unless the content is heavily accented for speech. So for example, you can see that you could speak into this and it will automatically translate and add those subtitles to your text. It can also detect faces, so you can put metadata around your videos to understand who is in those videos. So you could easily see all videos with your CEO in them. And you can also add time codes to make it easier to jump to specific points of that video and get people to the right content as soon as possible. Microsoft is very aware that it was possible in SharePoint to be a citizen developer and copy some relatively simple pieces of JavaScript on the web to get what you wanted, such as a rag status on a project list or a large carousel of images. These became a nightmare for administrators to help to maintain, with the assumption they would be supported when the person left, and often left functionality blocked or removed. To help this, Microsoft has tried to identify key areas where power users can start to do more themselves with their own applications and workflow, with minimal code required. These are quickly improving and also becoming more embedded across services. For example, you can now view flows from a SharePoint list, and Power Apps can be embedded in a Power BI dashboard. Power Apps is a cross-platform application service that allows you to build up screens for various datasets and services, for example a SharePoint list, Excel spreadsheet, Office contacts and users, Salesforce, SQL, etc. You can then both read and write that content from multiple devices, whether it be a Windows device, tablet, desktop, laptop, but also phone devices as well. So you can have it on your iPad and your iPhone as well as Android, and you can get a consistent experience across all of those. As you can see from the screen here, it's very easy to put a map with a set of contacts and be able to click on edit those, and that could go to a SQL backend, and you can also have the capability to put images on there. Moving on, there's Flow, which is more of a workflow application for simpler scenarios with a large number of pre-built templates alongside being able to build your own. For example, every time I receive an email from a particular client, you could copy it to a SharePoint library, or every time I send a tweet, copy it to an Excel list. You can then branch out to a certain degree and have different conditions. If this is the case, do this. If this is the case, do this. But you can also make use of these pre-existing templates if you're not sure where to get started and get moving very quickly. You can see here an example where you could manually trigger the flow using the Flow mobile application. You could pull details to get your manager, and if that matches a particular phone number, then send a text message. So if it's not equal to a phone number, you could send a text message, otherwise send an email. And you can notify your boss that you're working from home that day very quickly with one click of a button. Moving on now to Power BI, this is very much a dashboard and reporting tool where you can pull data from various datasets, whether it be the more traditional SQL databases, but also SharePoint lists, and even other non-Microsoft services such as Salesforce. And you can build up dashboards with large metrics, as well as some more traditional charts and bubble charts. And you can drill up and drill down this data and have the different content change as you select the items. There are a lot of different BI tools available out there, such as Tableau, which offers similar functionality. But where I've seen Power BI really make a difference is that you can query in natural language, and you can ask, for example, in this box, what was the sales figure for September last year? And it will pull that data from the different objects and display it as a number. And if you say, what were the sales figures by group as a pie chart, it will display that chart as a pie chart without you having to drag and drop and select different elements in there. And you can make this available to other users as well. You can see an example here where you've put number of gold medals by country in 2008, and it's shown that on a map and shown for the number, the different sizes that take place there. Finally, there's the newcomer to this set, which is Microsoft Forms. And really, this is a relatively simple tool allowing you to build a questionnaire or survey, and you can capture responses both internally but also externally as well. So where people are using tools such as SurveyMonkey and maybe going beyond the basics, then you can use this to add a bit more functionality, and it will allow you to process content within there and start to analyze some of the data. While Office is very powerful and caters for most needs, where it often falls down is in how it integrates with other platforms. Large services such as Salesforce, SAP, etc. will have existing connections, but other custom applications, or less widely used, will not have all the details. The great news is that Office has plenty of options for integrating with these services to make sure it can meet all your requirements. You can create custom connectors that will show feeds from other applications within your streams, within the mail, or within your Office 365 groups. You can build custom applications which embed themselves within Office and allow you to interact with the content themselves. And you can also extend SharePoint to build customizations to either display data or interact with users in a different way outside of what Power Apps and other out-of-the-box functionality can offer. While this is development scenarios, this isn't drag and drop. Here at Ballard Chalmers, we have experience of doing this and are very much welcome to come and listen to what integrations you'd like to make and how we can best help you with that. Now, I hope that's been a good run through of Office 365 and given you a much better overview of what is capable within this. If you do have any questions, please do reach out to us via our website or any existing contact details you may have.